Hi everyone, it's Kalika Yap with the EO Wonder podcast, and today I'm so thrilled to have Catie Chase. She is a certified independent educational consultant, a learning specialist, and a student life course. Welcome to the EO Wonder podcast, Catie.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you because recently the New York Times released an article that said our parents are not all right. I don't know if
Mm,
you got a chance to see that, but I'm sure that you may see it in your practice because you deal a lot with students, you deal a lot with college, and a lot of times they are not all right because of the expectations that they have on their kids. I'd love for
mm,
you to, maybe just talk a little bit about that and then dive into, why you became an educational consultant.
Wonderful. Oh, what a great question you raised this morning. I'm a parent myself of a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, so I see firsthand every day and experience the same challenges that parents are facing in these modern times with digital technology and conversations and on their authentic path, trying to go forward for their dreams and their goals. Life just really has not been the same since the pandemic. We're reaching the 5th year anniversary in the spring. And that's one of the reasons why I went into becoming a life coach, because being an educator for 20 years just wasn't enough. I needed more tools and skills to support the students that I serve and the families who reach out to me as they're navigating their own child's journey, which is very unique. As I tell my students, your profile is unique as your thumbprint. And so part of that time is to discover who you are, be grounded in yourself. But we can't do that without the tools and the life skills. And that's what was missing as a learning specialist, as a college counselor for so many years, supporting students to be successful and going for their dreams, despite the obstacles and challenges that are naturally along the way. So, not surprising to hear that the US General is very concerned about social media and its impacts, since we now have data. Data is loud, it speaks volumes. I'm actually writing about it in my book for girls, talking about what is evidence-based research and how do we use it in our toolbox every single day to get to our goals, to our dreams. And so now that we have more data about social media, the impacts of loneliness and stress, what is triggering our families and the parents who are supporting these incredible beings who have so much talent and will and desire, but there are new challenges for sure today. And so parents are feeling that because, it's interesting. Never have we had a time where there are 5 different generations alive at one time. There are a lot of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren today. And so in my support of those families, because there's so many blended families, parents are becoming more self-aware than they probably were 20, 30 years ago. They're more invested in their child's success and willing to support them much more longer than the first 18 years. So we're really looking at adolescence and coming into adulthood at about 25, 30 years. So our culture has changed, the economics have changed. So therefore, clearly parents are addressing and expressing more of their concerns than ever before. And luckily, we have so much support out there. And that's where life coaching has just been a blessing to really support families and students on their journey. It's not just the knowledge and the education, but how are we going to uncover and plan and follow through with authentic action despite the challenges ahead? There are many.
Yeah, and I think that the anxiousness, especially around college, is really real.
Mhm.
In this podcast I was listening to at the New York Times, they're saying that I guess the reporter has when she had a 5-year-old at kindergarten, she had heard that they had taken one of her neighbor's kids outside of soccer so that they could go into some type of private tutoring or something like that to prepare him for kindergarten. And she thought to herself, "Oh my God, should I be doing that? Should I be putting my 5-year-old?" And then she was able to catch herself And no, like I'm not going to be able,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to do that. And I'm
Yes.
just going to let him play. And so having this awareness, you had talked a little bit about tools. What are some tools that parents, all the entrepreneur parents that are listening today, what are some tools that they could use to sort of step back and
Mm,
think, is this real? Is this really making sense? So that
mhm.
society, this pressure of society, it doesn't make them go cuckoo.
Absolutely. Yes. Oftentimes, as I share with parents, if you're an entrepreneurial person with an entrepreneurial spirit, more than likely you're going to have children who are having the same attributes and traits. And they very much have an entrepreneurial spirit at such a young, incredible, beautiful age. This is why students have more of the heart to be resilient and take more risks. And then as we get older and we understand the consequences more, we start to hold back. And that naturally begins in middle school when we are shifting and changing and growing and making more agency and personal choices. So oftentimes I support the parent journey because we forget what it's like to be a student and a modern day student. What does that mean? I tell my daughter all the time, we might as well be 100 years apart, not 27 years apart, because our times are very, very different in terms of how we understand information, get information, assess information, all because of the internet and social media. So, one of my favorite recommendations for families is to have dinner together, have conversations, be in the present moment. Just as you are mentoring and supporting your team, your entrepreneurial staff, your goals, it's the same way as you're mentoring and loving and supporting your own children. And being that role model and highlighting praise is going to be that positive energy to push them forward despite the challenges that are ahead. As we all know, as entrepreneurs, falling down and getting up again, falling down and getting up again, coming up with plan B, plan C, lots of detours. In chapter 8 of my book, I talk about the unexpected journey where there's divorce, drugs, disease. There's a lot of challenges that we face during our time here, but we all have a purpose and we're here to contribute. And so when parents can shift and step out for a moment and remind themselves how far they've come, how do they get inspired? How do they show up as a leader, as an entrepreneur? This is how you're molding and role modeling for your own family and your own children to really see, oh, you make mistakes and that's how you recover. Oh, you're really overwhelmed that you can't manage all these appointments and be here, but this is how you are sharing with your children how it's possible and how you're continuously overcoming and resolving your own journey as an entrepreneur. And I think that when we can see others strive and build and become successful, that only ignites our energy and our purpose. Oftentimes when I was a school learning specialist for 10 years at an incredible independent school in LA, all I did was work with my students and support them through executive functioning and one-on-one instruction. And sometimes the most impactful, powerful moments is genuinely just saying, I acknowledge you. Look how far you've come. Look at where you're going. Oftentimes, we don't realize how compassion and being in the present moment is creating an all is well space. So that when somebody knows that they can utilize the support and access clarity, focus, ease, and grace, that anything's possible.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you mentioned clarity, focus, ease, and grace, because both of us are huge fans of Dr. Maria Nemeth, the founder of the Academy for Coaching Excellence. And
Mhm.
I'd love for you to share her definition of success.
Oh, yes. This is truly was transformational for me, having been in education for many years and supporting what I call the student journey. Oftentimes in education and the psychological context, we are very focused and driven on a very specific picture on what success looks like. And that is typically materialistic physical items and things. Yes,
or
yes,
getting in an Ivy League school.
yes, yes. Or the wellness industry. I mean, we can just go on and on, right? But, I was on a journey for a long time to find a life coaching program that would be centered in alignment with my values and goals, because coming from UCSB, from graduate school, and working at one of the best independent schools in the country, of course, I wasn't going to settle for just any program. So Dr. Maria Nemeth's definition of success just really encapsulates my whole purpose. And that is, success is saying what you said you were going to do with clarity, focus, ease, and grace. And when you break down the clarity, focus, ease, and grace to students, I can just tell you that I can literally see their body just melt. And they have a different approach to that college application essay, to that major or minor. Do I want to go to SMU or LMU, right? We really start to see the world and our dreams and our goals from within. And then that allows us to take advantage of the tools and skills that we're building. And how do we get to where we want to go? Because our goals continue through a process. It just doesn't begin and end. So when we can understand the framework of success is saying what you said you were going to do with clarity, focus, ease, and grace, it's a beautiful reminder to our brain, that monkey mind that wants to distract us and overwhelm us and carry our woes and fears, that we're centered. When we're centered and we complete what we said we were going to do with those qualities of being, clarity, focus, ease, and grace, all is well. And we're actually able to tap into those superpowers. We're actually able to tap into some of the most beautiful abilities and strengths that we never knew that we had. And so if we are overwhelmed with anxiety and stress, and what does my college application look like? And am I going to get to NYU or MIT? All the things that are really heavy on us in this physical reality that we're playing in. When we have tools and skills within us to use, we really get to engage and play for our goals the way we want to. And it's exciting. It's just exciting when you can really have a fresh new definition and think how that serves you now as a new framework.
And I know that you know this because you have a graduate degree in this field. Self-efficacy is really what we are striving, not only ourselves, but our kids to have. Tell us a little
Mm,
bit more about self-efficacy.
yes, yes. When I was working at Santa Barbara Community College many, many years ago as a graduate student, my master's thesis was on self-determination theory in college students with learning differences. So my background is in neurodiversity, and it's always been a beautiful space in my own research and my own heart to study self-efficacy, self-determination, advocacy, because essentially our whole existence, our whole purpose of being here is free will, and the fact that every single one of us is here to contribute and we have a purpose. So being able to exercise and have those skills and the tools in place to overcome life's challenges and the circumstances, this is where that grit and grace that we talk about in schools, in our infinity groups, as these beautiful spaces to practice mindfulness, is all contributing to supporting who we are and being grounded and building that confidence towards making our dreams come true.
I was reading this scroll. I don't know where I was. It was Buddha's 10 commandments or 16 commandments or something like that. And one of the things that it said was to just make sure that you do not fall into despair.
Mm,
Because despair is a total opposite of self-efficacy. With despair, you're like, that's it. Like, there's nothing I can do that will make my life better. but with self-determination and
Mhm.
self-efficacy, you really find that extra, that extra oomph, the extra energy to move forward.
Yes. And what I talk about is these are inner focusing tools. These are not tools that you can purchase, that you can study, that you can borrow from somebody else. And this is what I love about the life coaching work is that it's ontology. It's the study of who we are by nature as a human being. There are no labels, there are no conditions. And so once you understand who you are at your core and how incredibly powerful you are, like Glinda the Good Witch says to Dorothy, it's really incredible how one can overcome and strive and make something incredibly beautiful as they're here to do.
You also talked a lot about helping neurodivergent teens, college applications and college applicants, and perhaps maybe even parents, right? Because you said that this probably runs in it's, a lot of entrepreneurs are neurodivergent. Tell us a little about neurodivergent tendencies or behavior so that we can all understand.
Well, it's definitely a hot topic right now. If you have not heard of that word, it's not a word we would have heard 30 years ago. It actually came about in 1999 from Judy Singer when she wrote her master's thesis in Australia. Because when the internet became available, everyone started to communicate on a global conversation. No longer was it just your neighbors or your doctor. So all of a sudden, global conversations were happening, which has been an incredible testament to humanity and why we are wired to be connected. So, many years now, we hear the word neurodiversity. And so just think of the brain and diversity. It's different. There are a lot of differences, a lot of spectrums of differences in our brain and our sexuality and our personality. So again, we're fortunate to just know more. So when we have more data and we know more, from MRIs to AI, we know so much more about neurodiversity. And that encompasses autism, ADHD, dyslexia. I'm a woman that has dyslexia
Me
and I've
too.
had accommodations my whole life. And so you can see where my part work is really in alignment with why I'm here and what my life's purpose is. So in 2024, we really celebrate neurodiversity as an asset, as an advantage, as an incredible, beautiful piece of a human being that is able to contribute in such a larger way. But because of the psychological context in the world that we live in, we've really misunderstood the incredible advantages neurodiversity brings to entrepreneurial work, to schools, to innovation and technology, to medicine. So the research is incredible. I actually highly recommend reading The Neurodiversity Edge by Dr. Maureen Dunn. It just came out this spring. And it's really targeted for the workforce and for business. And how do you incorporate and support neurodiversity? Because when we look at the next quarter of the 21st century, can you believe that, Kalika, 2025?
Wow.
Wow. So we're talking about 1 of 4 adults are neurodivergent. And so having been an educator for 20 years in schools, in colleges, as a college counselor, supporting this population, and then now having a sense of where we're going in the next 25 to 50 years, it's such an incredible time to be in this work. I didn't mean to be a specialist from 10 to 80, the whole lifespan, but neurodiversity is diverse in all age groups, classifications. I mean, it really is the largest DEI movement. We just don't really talk about it and see it in that way because they're hidden. I would have never known if you didn't share, and you would have never known about me if I didn't share about my neurodiversity. So
Yeah.
we're all learning together.
And what I like the term that we are the same but different. And so whenever so when we take a look at the resources that we have, to help people who are, I guess, the majority of the population,
Yeah.
they we also should use the same resources to help people who learn differently.
Oh, well, this is why it's so universal, because one tool and one skill isn't just for one person. we all benefit from learning from each other. And when I was working in a school, in order to have these courageous conversations with students and families, and oftentimes families don't always share or students don't always know their learning profile, and that would be okay because you have to respect a family and a student's process. But at the same time, the conversation would be, okay, well, what is currently in your toolbox? So I call it my modern toolbox for success. And I really just created it from writing on a napkin or on the board in my office, a box to highlight what is your first pillar for success. And that is your health and well-being. So have you had your medication today? Have you eaten today? Girls don't like to eat very much. They like to have a frappuccino and think that that's health. So explaining to them how that is going to impact how you show up to take your AP US history exam with your extra time, it's allowing them to observe and to connect what is working for me in the here and the now. And therefore, teenagers love to have agency and choice. It's what makes them feel heard and important. So just like when they're in preschool, no different when they're teenagers or young adults. I remember telling my own daughter, Camille, you get to wear the pink outfit or the red outfit, right? And then now it's about to be 16. Do you want this or that, right? I remember working so closely with the school counselors, and it would just be, is it strawberry, chocolate, or vanilla? So really breaking it down for young adults and teenagers to practice, let them practice using these tools and the skills with you at home before they go out into college, their first internship, as they're just keep building their self-awareness, because that's where they're going to be able to become grounded and secure. And we know that in order to be successful, we need to be resilient and independent. Independent doesn't mean being alone, not at all. It's quite the opposite. But we do know that we have to utilize our tools and our skills from within.
So the first pillar is health and well-being.
Yes, the first pillar, health and well-being, and then the second, connection and belonging. And, sometimes students maybe didn't connect with their teacher during office hours before their test, or maybe they got into a fight with their mom at this bus stop. So that gets you dysregulated in the day, or your friend group has changed. We've all been there supporting our teenagers. It's exhausting, right? So all of that is really integrated into who you are and why you go to school and why you are so drawn to your life. And so the third pillar for success is the learning and the growth. And I really had to illustrate this visualization for students because we live in a culture and a society where we want it and we want it now. So I'd have a lot of students come into my office or in Zoom meetings, and the devastation of not getting an outcome the way you had dreamt about it is very, very difficult, especially when we're in high achieving schools. Students are really focused on a specific college list. And so they don't have very much leeway or flexibility. And so that recovery period takes some practice. It takes some time. So again, illustrating my toolbox for success is non-judgmental. It's kind and gentle. I could use it as a parent myself as I talk to my own teenagers about how I'm doing during the week. And then the foundation, the bottom, is later when I added when I knew that I wanted to go become a life coach and go back to school. And this is where I've integrated Dr. Maria Nemeth's life coaching principles in terms of her standards of integrity exercise, where it's a beautiful exercise where
So powerful.
so powerful. I'm not telling a student who you are. And do you know how many college essays ask, who are you? How do you contribute? Who are you at home? What do you like to do? So students are so exhausted and overwhelmed because we don't live in a culture where we write about who you are. They're writing biology lab reports and essays for books. It's not evoking the essence
Or
of
or
who
or,
you are.
or they'll type it in ChatGPT. Who am
Yeah, oh
I?
yeah, let's be real. I forget about that. I know. It's just phenomenal, right? And so being able to use Dr. Maria's exercise and understanding who are you, what are those values look like? And for a student to read them off a paper, it's just mind-blowing, beautiful.
I'm sure lots of tears. I remember when I did it, when I was in my 20s, like it was just like this is who I am. I'm trustworthy.
Yes.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
I better start being trustworthy.
Oh, right. And then you can see that creativity, that openness, and then they come to this place where, oh, I know what story I want to write about. I know what's going to help reflect who I am as my whole application is sharing my story. Right. And so they're more at ease and more open and willing. And then, really reframing it that these are life skills, not just for college, but when you have your first job interview, when you decide to move across the country, when you decide to move in with your partner, right? So we're building life skills to support your personal life, to play and to be joyful, and your professional skills, your professional dreams, whatever that may look like.
So the first pillar is health and well-being, then connection and belonging. Third is learning and growing, or learn and grow.
Yes, learning and growth,
Learning.
because growth is consistent. And then that would be like if a student is frustrated because they're not getting a certain grade, if a student is trying to work on a school project, right? So this is kind of where we are performing and have a desire to have specific outcomes. But young people, in building their goals and their dreams, to understand that your health and well-being comes first has been very challenging in our society because we're so focused on what success looks like that a lot of times families aren't taking a pause to address the health and wellness, well-being, and then we get into more danger. Do you see? So this is where education is being proactive, and we don't have to suffer as long as we allow ourselves to suffer. And I think that this is where the inner focusing tools are incredibly powerful, and I've integrated them in all of my life's work. And there's nothing more exciting to know that you're alive when a student has their tools and they see them working in motion.
Yeah, they have a framework now. They have a blueprint for their life.
Oh, yes. And
Yeah,
then they show up to a meeting with me, they have their tools, and then they're practicing their tools, just like when we were learning how to walk,
right.
when your babies were learning how to walk. It just doesn't happen overnight. So I think that's where, as a learning specialist and supporting the student journey, we can get the best neuropsych reports. We can have the best tutors in the world. We can have it all in terms of what it looks like on the outside. But if we don't have the internal focusing skills and we don't know how to access our voice of wisdom, then what is all of this worth?
Right. And also, you mentioned earlier about parents having to model this behavior as well. A
Yes.
lot of times, parents, especially in wealthier, entrepreneurial families, they like to outsource the raising of their kids, but they are really an important part of this. Like that pillar of success number two, connection and
Mhm.
belonging. I
Mm,
remember, Gabor Mate has a book, Hold On to Your Kids, and he
mm.
talks a little bit about attachment voids, which I know that you know a lot about. When we sort of sever that attachment with our kid, because as soon as they come in through the door, we're like, did you do your, like,
Yeah.
go to the shower, go,
Me
like we're,
too. I'm guilty
we're
of that too, and
yelling.
I know it all, right? It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
easy for us to get into that space
right,
because guess what? You and I are human too,
right,
right? We
yeah,
can't tell our kids, do this, do this, do this. Be calm when you talk to your teacher, yet I'm not calm to you, right? How does it, that doesn't make sense.
right.
This is where students get detached and really upset and sad. And then this is where they don't want to outsource or get connected with support. So it's a fine line of, am I contributing to my child's experience to build the skills, or am I blocking the growth? And when we block the growth, we're actually blocking the soul and the spirit to participate. And I think that that's what I've seen so much of, and where life coaching has provided me a breath of fresh air to really encompass what does it mean to be human and to be a student and to be a neurodiverse learner, and advocating for yourself and moving forward into your dreams to complete your goals.
Yeah, and I think that that leads to grace, which is the final quality, right? Grateful that we are having this experience, grateful that our kids are with us, and that we could also learn from our kids, right? Because what do they say? The gratitude is the gateway to grace. So rather than thinking our kids as like an extension of us and like you better go as far as or further than I went, just appreciating them and being grateful to just even be in their presence.
Yes. Oh, what I've learned about myself and being a mother, I could spend a whole nother podcast. It's really incredible, isn't it? Where, they say if you're a parent or a close auntie or uncle, right, you're a mentor, you're involved in a young person's life. I really call it the caring adult because there's so many blended families and role models who serve in the life of young people. But yes, when you can be your own authentic self and demonstrate in utilizing the tools and sharing with them how you've overcome certain situations in your life, it just makes it more real, more possible, with promise and hope that they can navigate forward. Um, I'll never forget last fall, I sponsored Dr. Dan Siegel at UCLA for the LA Psychological Association conference. And it was the first in person before since the pandemic. And he started his incredible presentation on the wholeness of the self and what does that mean in mental health. And when he shared one of the first statistics that 56% of our youth do not have faith in humanity. And that really spoke to me. And so when I think about my modern toolbox for success and those pillars, creating agency, self-efficacy, purpose, because life is going to present obstacles and challenges along the way, how do we overcome them and reshape our authentic path when we have to? So the grace piece is very exciting because I am becoming a life coach. I don't think I ever really looked at grace in the same way that I now see it. And in terms of students, it's having the abundance of gratitude and the willingness that life is a lesson when we say yes to everything that comes to our path.
Yeah, and also the unexpected blessing, like you said, the caring adult that's always there, realizing that they really do have the support rather than looking at their life with such anxiety and despair.
Yes, yeah, a different colored lens. You know, to me, in my book, I talk about how support is a principle of success because it's both giving and receiving. In fact, my sweet little son, who's in seventh grade, just told me that he's been invited to be a peer tutor. This makes this mama so proud because I've created peer tutor programming for schools. I'm writing a book about peer tutoring. So he's going to be a little math peer tutor.
How sweet.
And, but look, like whatever he does with his life, my husband's an engineer. He loves computer programming right now. I know he has his mama's entrepreneurial spirit. That's me, right? But for him to be able to building those life skills and those lessons and giving to somebody else, I told him this morning as he walked to school, can I just tell you, this is a whole new chapter in your life where giving and teaching somebody else is going to support your dreams and your goals and uplift your spirit like you've never experienced.
Yeah. I remember my mom always says, if you want to learn something fast, teach it. And
Yes.
so he's going to just be able to embody these these qualities
Yes, but
when
this
he
is what middle
shares.
schoolers can do. They're incredible, right? Middle schoolers are loving and smart and compassionate, and they have the potential. They're just like little toddlers growing so much, and there's just so much excitement. So how do we support that and channel that energy and let them have agency, but know that we're going to fall down and it's going to be a little messy, but here we are. This is the game in life that we're playing for, and this is what it means to be alive.
So if entrepreneur parents who are listening want to maybe talk to you, discover more what you do to help not only themselves but also their students, how can they reach you?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I offer many different programs and support systems because, as you know, students and families are individual and we all have different needs and wishes. You can reach me directly on my website at catiechase.com, Katie with a C, Catie Chase, and you can schedule a discovery call, which is lovely because I will take the time to sit with you on Zoom or chat on the phone and we can connect and talk about how I may be able to support your student's journey or your goals as a parent. I have consulting, and as we know, consulting for college, school, graduate school, or even career, because I do support young adults with career placement and transition and all that growing up stuff. But the coaching is definitely a different program, right? Because as a coach, I am supporting the student in a different way. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm really supporting them with a space for them to practice how to use the inner focusing tools and observing to see, look, tell the truth, and take authentic action. And, this is, I think, just as effective as therapy, because when we have a toolbox in the present moment and a student knows, okay, I'm feeling really stressed about the amount of homework I have to do tonight, but they have a go-to formula list on how to support themselves, that is creating and fostering that sense of resiliency and independence so that they're not melting in the moment in a pile of puddles, right? And avoiding or ghosting and really struggling and suffering. So you can think of the student journey as like master life classes. It's like a mini college course. So great questions. I'd be happy to have any discussions. And I do public speaking as well for schools and any student organizations.
Yeah, I know you're so wonderful. And I think that the way that therapy is different from coaching is therapy is looking backwards at
Mm-hmm.
your trauma, perhaps. And coaching is really when you want to move your life forward. You want to be able to have the tools to move your life, in a direction that is authentic to you. So I'm so glad that we were able to connect and hope that one more thing I wanted to add is, because I know you've really supported so many families, even families with money. Were telling me about how you were able to get this very wealthy family like a scholarship because there's particular schools, all the various different schools that are a better fit for your child. And scholarships are available, which is really fantastic for
Yeah,
parents.
well, merit aid doesn't have to always be restricted to need-based aid. So if you have a student who is working hard and is able to be flexible and really understand the pillars of success for college, I say number one is the academic match. There are no universities and colleges that are the same, right? So when I take the students through that process of how you're the consumer, how do you understand what is college? What is it for? How is it used? How is it different today than when your parents went? The students become quite empowered. And I think that this is where they get to say, oh, I like these colleges from doing our research. And then we get to find out, well, who are the schools that are generous with their merit aid, right? Who would really be so excited to have you come to their campus? So if a student is willing and open to have those conversations and to uncover what's out there, you would be quite surprised how there are some incredible schools and programs who can be generous if you're the right fit for their program.
Yeah, so everyone get a discovery call with Catie Chase, and perhaps she can guide you, because, you helped my daughter, and, Malia is now at Emory, and she got a merit scholarship, and, you know, you know,
Everything,
yeah,
and you know what I tell parents?
yeah.
It's actually for your child, to celebrate your child for the merit. Because we work as hard as parents, we want to be able to take care of our kids and not have to depend on all that. But it really is a beautiful success story for the child, for the student to see, oh, wow, I worked so hard and reached this goal, that this school sees something in me, that they're willing to give me money. And remember, Kalika, money's energy.
Y- That's right.
That's all, right? So
Yeah.
it's super exciting, even if that's not your child's go-to school. Every student who has, when someone has said yes to you and they're giving you a merit
Hmm.
aid scholarship or a bonus, that's what it is in the workforce. It's no different. Those feelings are the same.
Yeah, Malia flew in last night from Emory, and I asked her, like, let's just rate your experience. And she said, because Emory is rated number one for quality of life. And she said, my social is 8.5 to 9. Can you imagine as a freshman in college,
That's brilliant.
the first 2 months of her college experience? And I'm listening to other parents, and they're just like, "Oh, my daughter's is missing home and wants to come home and wants to transfer." So it is just, you're absolutely right. They will find the
Yeah.
right place to land.
Yeah, I didn't grow up wanting to be a college counselor. It happened on accident because I was getting my PhD during the Great Recession. And then there was no PhD to go get or a job to get because we were in the Great Recession. So I actually started as a college counselor working with transfer students because of my experience in community colleges, which is the backbone of California in terms of
Yes.
economy and in terms of small businesses and in terms of profit and growth. So I'm not surprised that I'm going into life coaching with a beautiful lens as an educator and supporting neurodiverse students and learners, but also that life is not one path direct forward or set in stone. So it's a common time for many freshmen, first years in college to, did I make the right decision? I'm going to connect with Catie again or talk to my parents about, so when do we wait? Do we wait another 6 months? Do we apply next year? So then those are just the next step of courageous conversations on how to going for your next set of dreams and goals.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you so much for being such a beautiful contributor to society, to the world. I've learned so much from you over the past, so many years that I've known you. And I'm so excited for, a lot of, entrepreneur parents to learn more about you, because I love what you called yourself. You're like, I am a warm demander when it comes to students, right?
Yes, it
You
is. Yes. I mean, this is October 11th, and we're talking about college applications due on the 1st. So
right.
it doesn't matter how brilliant your child is or what entrepreneurial neurodiversity gifts that they have. We're all human beings first. So this is where we are the same, is inside, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
what we contribute and do on the outside is uniquely defined by who we are.
yes. All is well. And let's get that essay in.
Yes, exactly. Amen to that. Yes. And 2 weeks. My due date is the
And
27th.
I'm going to hold you accountable to that in a nice way.
And
Anyway,
this should, and again, it should be celebrated. Like if you
yeah,
want it to be joyful and happy, press submit by this. Like, yes, we're not holding on to the last minute. All those
yeah.
life skills. Thank
Ah,
you, Kalika. This
thank
has
you
been
so
such a joy.
much. Thank you, thank you. So everyone, CatieChase.com, and her book is coming out, and we will update the podcast episode when your book is ready.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
actually, you can actually sign up for your newsletter, so when your book comes out, you'll get notified.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.